Hello and welcome to Series 2 of my podcast Innervation, where we get to hear stories and experiences of incredible women in science and technology. Not only will you get insights into some fascinating innovations, but you may also even relate to their stories, especially if you're a little unconventional or non-conforming. As with all science and technology, what these women do have a real impact on all of our lives, whether we realise it or not. But here on Innervation, I'm also giving women a platform for them to be heard and for us to be inspired and uplifted by what they've learned along their life's journeys. This week, I talked to Eneni Abban, a robotics engineer.
My name is Eneni Abban. I am a robotics engineer, all-round tech enthusiast, and I'm currently studying data science at the University of West England.
Well, it's awesome to meet you. I have to say right off the bat that you do not look like a typical robotics engineer. So how has that been for you?
I think it's come with its ups and downs, as one would presume. It's been a really interesting road for me. Honestly, I wouldn't change anything for the world. It's what I love to do. It's what I've always wanted to be and what I advocate for and go around the world talking about. So it's really a strong passion of mine and honestly love it. With all the challenges, I do love it.
So what got you into robotics in the first place?
I've told this story quite a bit, so I do apologize if it's been heard before, but I was a kid growing up in South London, not the best of areas. And I just knew that whatever I do in life, I wanted to get out of my situation. I didn't want to be this kid forever growing up in the council estate. I had a single mom, so I saw how hard she was always working. And I guess also being the eldest child, coming from a Nigerian heritage, it was not really imposed on me, but it's kind of in our tradition that as the eldest child, you kind of help a lot more with the responsibilities and stuff. So I always knew whatever I did, it would have to be something where I was earning enough, enough to take us out of our situation. So I went from wanting to be a doctor to wanting to be a plastic surgeon to wanting to be a forensic scientist. Then robotics kind of I got a doll that was about probably 1 meter tall. It could walk, it could talk. And I was so fascinated by it. How is this possible? Especially in the 90s, I was like, how is this possible? And just from doing my research, going to the library and stuff, I've kind of figured out this is robotics. And I guess from that, my passion just grew and I pretty much knew that's what I wanted to do.
So I'm assuming that to get into robotics, you have to be good at maths and sciences, particularly physics, right?
I think there is a maybe preconceived notion that you do have to be good at maths. I do think that up to A-level maths is actually more than enough to be able to understand the maths that's in robotics. Of course, if you're specializing and going into something really specific, then you would have to know the maths pertaining to that. But we live in a day and age where nobody's solving algorithms like mathematical stuff by hand. We have calculators, there's machines that can do it for you. And I think some people think, oh my God, I'm going to be in industry and I'm going to be doing y equals mx plus, doing all this crazy stuff and letters and algebra and all sorts. But it's really not the case, especially in maybe this type of robotics that I do, which is computer vision. There is maths, but it's all done on apps and online and calculators. It's nothing that you're going to be by hand scribbling and doing yourself. There is an element of maths to it. I definitely say there is, but it's nothing more than A-level maths. If you can do A-level maths, then you can pass that. Just do a little bit more and you're good for robotics.
So tell me about your area of expertise. You talked about computer vision. What are you doing with your specialist knowledge that is maybe affecting the rest of our lives?
Yeah, so about maybe 2 years now, I worked in a company which was using computer vision algorithms to basically make driverless cars. And it was honestly the coolest thing ever. I was the only woman, I was the only Black woman, but it was just a wealth of knowledge all around me. And I think that's where I really was like, okay, good, this is the kind of robotics that I want to specify. And computer vision is just basically how robots see, how machines see. So for me, that was what I I was really interested in. I was like, how is a car able to drive somewhere and there's no driver, there's no human interaction, there's nothing. And that for me was just really fascinating.
So what kind of things do you do on a daily basis? Like, how do you turn that concept of computer vision into like an actual reality?
Yeah, so I've been out of industry for about maybe a year now. I actually left. So I was working in industry, COVID hit, and being a robotics engineer, especially one that's kind of more on the hardware side of things, there's just not much you can do when you can't be on site, which I really sympathize with a lot of engineers who kind of work on the more hardware side of things, because you can't go to work, you can't work on the car, you can't be there. So for me, I made a really big decision that, okay, I've done what I can do in industry. I feel like I've learned what I can learn. I want to take like this computer vision knowledge and all this passion for robotics and do something that makes sense, like do something that really fulfills me. And that's when I decided to basically go to Africa. I was like, do you know what? It's mid-COVID. I checked the regulations. COVID wasn't really doing much in Africa as a continent. So I was like, okay, which country do I want to go to? And I found myself in Nigeria for about half a year. So I've only been in the UK now for about 2-3 months. But I found myself going to villages, going to government schools and teaching robotics. And I think the beautiful thing with computer vision is as long as you have a camera and you have a computer, you can demonstrate what a computer vision algorithm can do, because how the robot sees is basically through a camera. So just having the kids actually being able to use different programs and seeing how things work, and having the computer vision algorithms like recognize that that's their eyes or that's their nose, that's their mouth, I think that was just really amazing. So I actually went with a company called Arduino, who's like I love Arduino, one of the most amazing engineering companies in the world. They're really, really focused on STEM education. And yeah, it was amazing. I taught kids from different areas, villages, to kids that were maybe in, more of the Al-Qaeda kind of stricken areas. So the places that had a lot of issues with girls not really being able to be themselves or being pushed to menial jobs. So that for me was just, it really made me see just how much robotics as a whole can impact communities, and not just at a, I guess, educational level, but just even showing them that there's more to this world, there's more to this life, there's so much that they can do. If you can imagine it, you can probably build it. Somebody somewhere is probably building it as we speak. So yeah, so that's what I've been doing. So I've kind of transitioned from industry, doing more kind of going around foundation type of work. And now I'm currently doing my master's in data.
In what?
In data science.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
My gosh, that just sounds like such an incredibly fulfilling career so far. I mean, to go from being in an industry where you really are a minority to then using your knowledge and expertise to inspire the next generation. I mean, I can't even compute how enriching that must have been. What drove you to, I mean, I know COVID, you took a massive decision, but you could have gone in any direction. Like, why did you go in that particular direction to help young kids?
Yeah, this might sound like a little bit shocking to you, but I think it was 2017, I actually attended the IET Awards, and you were giving a speech. You were saying about stuff that you've done with like UN. You're just talking about what you were doing and how you believe girls should not really be confined to menial jobs and stuff like that. And honestly, I was so inspired. I think my first post on my Instagram is literally you giving the speech. And I'm just like, oh my God, this is amazing. I want to help people. I want to go into these communities and help children too. So that's when I kind of started my Instagram page, and my whole Instagram is really about representation and just showing that this is what a robotics engineer looks like. And there's so many girls, so many women that look like me. And that's pretty much what started it for me. So thank you. That's really what drove me, because I was thinking about it. I was in my own little bubble. I'd had all these challenges even prior to, because back then I don't think I'd actually entered the industry. So back then I was rounding up university and I was just feeling really defeated. I had a lot of imposter syndrome. only girl on my course, only person of color. So I was just really feeling like, what do I do next? And I really don't want anybody else, perhaps from my background or from a similar background, to feel the same way that I felt during the course, because there were so many times when I wanted to drop out, so many. And yeah, I think for me, that's always just been at the back of my mind. So since then, I've probably done over 20 workshops teaching. So for me, when COVID hit and everything, it was kind of like a no-brainer, because I'd already felt like, oh my God, this is what I'm meant to be doing. I'd done quite a bit in the UK, but I was like, I want to go back to the motherland. I'm a proud Nigerian. It's something I tell everyone, you're a robotics engineer. No, I'm a Nigerian robotics engineer. But no, I really wanted to go back, and I wanted to just give back to my people. So that was really what propelled me. I was like, okay, I'm here, working from home. That we're kind of in limbo. They're telling us we might become redundant, we might not. That they don't know what's happening. And I'm just seeing, like, I'm on LinkedIn and I'm seeing guys in Kenya making like humanoid robots with no formal education. There's a girl in Ghana who made a power generator that's powered off urine. And I was just like, wow, like, I want to be in Africa. I want to be with these kids. I want to see what they're doing. I want to inspire more to get into it. And yeah, I was just thinking, if this is what they can do without that formal education, since I'm trained and I know basically a lot about robotics, and I'm just here doing nothing at home, why don't I go back and, actually show them that it is possible. This little hobby you're working on, you can make it a profession. So.
Wow. Oh my God. Like, disclaimer, I had no idea that you had seen, you were part of that audience, and that, that's, it's so weird, because right now I'm like in between the emotion of feeling extremely humbled, but also massively inspired, because what you've gone on to do is touch so many people's lives in such a profound way. Like, I can just imagine these little girls looking at you thinking, wow, I want to be like you when I grow up, which is so incredible that you did that work. What's the plan then? Are you going to continue to inspire? Are you going to go back to industry?
So basically, I felt that as a robotics engineer, I had a very strong undergrad, and I was like, okay, I feel like my university, the University of the West of England, which is where I also did my undergrad, I felt like their course was so comprehensive. I'd learned so much in the space of like 5 years that I was pretty much like, okay, I don't know if I want to study robotics as a, in fact, I didn't even want to go back to uni. I just wanted to go to the industry, make money, make my mama proud, and that was it. But while I was in Nigeria, my university kind of saw what I was doing, and I got a scholarship. I got offered a scholarship to study data science. And I was just thinking to myself, I mean, data science as a robotics engineer, is there any relevance? And I thought about it properly. The thing with data science that really ultimately made me take it as a master's was the fact that you specifically learn a lot of machine learning algorithms. And I think that's kind of like, ironically, the next step for robotics anyway. When you have just traditional robotics, the next thing that makes it even better is artificial intelligence, and thus machine learning. So it just kind of worked out, honestly. And I was in Nigeria, and I was thinking to myself, do I stay and keep doing this, or do I go get more knowledge and then come back? So that's pretty much my plan. I'm gonna go, or I'm here now. I'm gonna get as much knowledge as I can, just strengthen what I already know, and then ultimately I want to be back doing what I love. I'm so passionate about it. I've now created a foundation, and through the foundation I've got other people, volunteers coming on board. So yeah, I'm all for going back. I think what I might do, instead of going to industry just for the financial kind of protection of it all, is I really want to start my own company, but offering automated services in Africa. But it's pretty much basically set in stone that I will be in Africa, because I feel like that's where I can make the most impact.
Oh my God, goosebumps, like literally. It's amazing what you're doing. And, I just wish you so much luck and prosperity with it, because, one of the things you said was, when you were talking about these different individuals who have, built a power generator from urine and, built all these creative things, that's really the essence of engineering. And so it feels like you are going back to Africa to really nurture the seeds that have been planted, in terms of engineers who just need that sort of TLC to really prosper.
Exactly.
And that is what engineering is about. Like, I think sometimes I get the feeling that STEM subjects are often reserved for people who, have had quite a privileged upbringing, or, have access to, I don't know, tutors, or, have had quite a cozy education. But engineers, and this is what I love about engineering, is that engineering and ingenuity can really spring up from nowhere. You don't necessarily have to have like this privileged education to be an engineer. You just need to have good ideas and a willingness to solve problems. Is that right?
Exactly. Just, you'd be surprised the raw talent that there is in the world. I mean, when you think about robotics, you think about the West, and not even so much the West, maybe even like Asia. That's where you think the robotics is really, really advanced. But it's the talent, like the natural talent is there. The passion, the willingness to learn is there. And what I've noticed a lot with going back over the years is all they want is just an opportunity. It's just somebody to believe in them. It's just somebody to be like, do you know what? No, what you're doing is great. Continue, keep going. Don't worry. Some guy over there said that you're this and that, whatever, kill him with your skill. Like they just want somebody to have their back. And for me personally, being in university or my undergrad and just feeling like I had no one on my side, like family, from family to friends, so many people like, are you sure? Are you gonna have a career in this? Because people were worried about me because there was nobody like me ever. When I go back to Nigeria, people are like, you're the first female Nigerian robotics engineer that we've met. And I'm like, whoa, I might be, there was literally nobody in my class. I've spoken to so many people in industry. They've never met any females, yet alone Black. So for me, it's giving people that kind of opportunity that maybe I didn't have and I would have loved to have. Just having somebody, not so much as a role model to be like, okay, do it exactly how I've done it because I don't have all the answers, but just somebody that looks like them. Again, representation is so important. It's incredibly important. Just knowing that, oh, there's this girl called the Tech Over on Instagram and she looks like this and she goes out and she has a good time, but then on Monday she's underneath like a car bonnet and she's doing all this crazy stuff. Like just knowing that this is possible and you can have the best of all the worlds that you want, not just being a mother, not just doing this, not just doing that, whatever you want to do. So yeah, I think it's just them having the opportunity, them having somebody to be like, Eneni sees us and, because she sees us, I'm going to do what I need to do to become what I want to be, kind of thing.
It's incredible. Tell me more about what you have experienced, because this is really a platform to just get transparent about what it's been like. And the reason why I give people a chance to just describe it is because often people in minorities are not heard, because when we describe our experiences, people go, oh, okay, get the violins out. Yeah, you had it tough. But it's like, I don't think it is important to talk about how tough it was to get sympathy. I think it's important to talk about how tough it was in order for people to go, oh, okay, my experiences weren't isolated. So as a female woman in robotics engineering, who also happens to be Black, what has it been like?
I guess maybe I'll start from how far back should I go? Let's go to secondary school. I feel like when I was in secondary school or high school, I was born here, raised in the UK, everything. Around 12, my parents felt like it was important for me to be exposed to my culture and know my heritage, where I come from. So that's when basically, me and my brother, we moved back to Nigeria. We moved to Nigeria. And while we were there, it was a completely different world for me. I think that's kind of when I first saw that, okay, yes, I'm Black, everybody else here is Black. But I was like, wow, I have a certain level of privilege, even coming from like a council estate and being on benefits as a family. And, I still have more of a privilege than a lot of the people who were in my school. And for me, it wasn't something where I was like, oh my God, yes. I was really like humbled by it. I was shocked even because firsthand I saw how intelligent and how brilliant people in my school were. And I was just like, wow. I need to be here. So I think from that age, I always knew that I was going to eventually find myself back in Nigeria because I wanted to help. But I felt a lot of resistance towards me. I felt a lot of people would kind of laugh, like, oh, you want to do robotics? Like, what's that? And I'd feel very defeated. Even my teachers in school would be like, we don't think you should do it. Women don't do engineering. Do something that's a bit more fitted to you, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, what does that mean? Something that's more fitted to me. I mean, I've been taking apart kettles and toasters since I was like 7. Like, if there's anything I'm meant to be doing, I'm pretty sure it was engineering. And yeah, they just nobody really supported it. So I was very resilient. I will say that I do have quite a strong personality. And I was just like, well, you guys don't think I can do it because you think I can't do it. I'm going to do it even more. So that's how I kind of started applying for schools, applied to like MIT. I just looked for like all the best robotics schools from MIT to actually UE, which is the best in England. So I was like, let me look around and let me see. And that's how I eventually came to the UK for A-levels, did my A-levels. And the funniest thing is I actually tanked my A-levels. The first year, it was really crazy. The first year, because of how good the education in Nigeria is, which a lot of people don't actually know, education is kind of really, really advanced. So when I came to do my A-levels, my first year, I was really kind of academically ahead. I was probably 2 years ahead. So I was probably at university level at the beginning of A-levels. So my first year, I kind of just moved through. I was like, oh yeah, I know this. I did this 2 years ago. And that was great. But my second year, I think from being so calm and lax about it all, I completely tanked everything. And the ones that I was meant to do to get onto robotics, like IT and mathematics, I failed. Like, I think I got a C and a D. So, and the entry requirement for my university was A and B. So I sent them a very long, heartfelt email. And I was just like, hi guys, I've always wanted to be a robotics engineer. I know I don't have the necessary grades. I'm happy to be put on a waiting list. I really want to learn. And just told them about the projects I was doing and just a really long email fighting my case. And yeah, they were like, okay, we're full for this cohort, but do you want to come onto the foundation kind of more course first, the foundation, like a general engineering course, and then after that you can go into robotics. I was like, yes, I'll be there tomorrow. So that's how I actually found myself onto it. And the foundation year was great. Like, there were so many people from computer science, from games design. It was just a general kind of engineering degree. There's so many people. Probably half the amount of people, half the cohort was women. So I was just like, yes, this is how it's going to be on robotics. The next year when I got into robotics, I looked around and I was like, wow, okay, there's a lot of white men here. And, is anybody else, any females, and that's when I kind of began to feel, at times I do think, was it in my head? And then there's other times that I'm like, no, something fishy was going on. I did feel when it came to things like group work, people wouldn't want to work with me because they just presume, because I've always been very fabulous. I'll come into class, we're going to learn some trigonometry or something, or like some crazy thing in class, digital signals processing or something. But I've got like lashes on, I've got my fresh weave, I've got maybe even heels on, like thigh-high boots. So I just really was expressive and dressed and acted how I wanted to. I still got the work done, but I think that kind of gave people this stereotype of me, that she's just this black Barbie, you know, she's just this bimbo and we don't know how she got here. Considering the fact that I kept passing every year and going to you think that they would be like, okay, so she's definitely doing well on the course. But yeah, so things like group work, people wouldn't want to work with me. I always felt like I had to try harder, almost to the point of trying to impress. Like, I felt like I was begging for attention silently. So I'd be, oh yeah, so I can do this part of the report. Like, I'd find myself doing 75% of the work on the project because I wanted to prove myself and because I wanted to be like, I know what I'm doing. I'm not this airhead that you guys probably have presumed I am. And yeah, I think for majority of it, I was miserable. So I had a lot of friends in like business and other degrees, which have a lot more women. And I would see them hanging out, you know, they'd go for lunch and stuff. And I'd be like in the canteen, just eating by myself, and all the robotics boys are like together. I'd be like, I'd come to class and they'd be like, yeah, so it was really good seeing you yesterday. And when we were studying together, I'd be like, I'm in the group chat. Nobody invited me. Like, I didn't know about this. So things like that, I think for me, it was really difficult. And that plus the fact that the course itself is a very intense course, especially at my university. You learn so much about so much. You learn from computer vision to the actual hardware of robotics to electronic signals. And I felt like I didn't have anyone. So there were many points that I did feel like I wanted to just drop out. I can't do this. I would go online and try searching for Black female robotics engineers. I wouldn't see any. And I'd be like, well, there's probably a reason why there's none, because we're not wanted. We're not wanted in this field. And I didn't feel wanted in class. Sometimes I'd ask questions, like even to teachers, and I feel like they didn't really know. Like, they'd be like, oh, you should know that. And I'm like, well, I don't know. That's why I'm asking. So just that, coupled with a lot of things, it actually took me an extra year to finish because I just mentally had to go for a little bit of a break. I was like, this is too much. And then when I came back, I was like, do you know what? I believe in myself. I've always believed. This is not the first time I felt like I didn't belong in robotics. From when I was young, I've always felt like this is what I wanted to do. And that passion that I've naturally always had just became like, it just lit a fire under me. I was like, why am I letting people get to me? I've never been one to care about what anybody thinks. So why suddenly do I care so much? And yeah, I was like, do you know what? And then get this degree done, finish it, graduate. And again, going back to when I saw your speech, it's so crazy because I think I was in my last year of uni and I was thinking to myself, am I the only one who cares about going back to the motherland and helping? Am I the only person? Like, I don't see people doing this. Even the people in industry, they have careers here. I mean, none of them are Black women, but the robotics engineers I saw, it's like, they're not doing anything else. They're just working and good. That's it. Like, and I think from seeing you speak and just being like, there are people who just want opportunity. Like, we as engineers, as women, we have a power and we need to use that power kind of, and just all of that. I just felt to myself, wow, why do I have imposter syndrome? Like, and for me, it was almost at the point where it was inspiring. And I thought to myself, like, because I know you mentioned UN, I believe you mentioned that you had just done something with them. And I was just like, wow, like that's where I could be as well. Like, it's crazy because now I give so many people, like, I guess, hope to get into engineering. But for me, that was a really defining moment. And honestly, this is not rehearsed, guys. We didn't talk about this before. But that was a really defining moment in my life because I was just like, there's somebody that's visible to me, you know, a woman of color, and she's on a stage and she's talking to a lot of white men in the crowd, you know, like, why do I feel some type of way about what I'm doing? So honestly, I think 6 months later is when I graduated. So that was a really important moment for me to be like, finish it, get it done, and then do what you really care about, which is helping people. So I know that's a very long story, but that's basically how I was like, yeah, people are always going to hate on you. People are always going to have something to say. But at the end of the day, if you have the passion for it, if it's really what you want to do and it makes you happy, who cares? Somebody's always going to say something.
Oh my God. It's so amazing to hear your experiences, because what I hear is just someone that's got such resilience and such like it just reminds me of that analogy of like a blade of grass growing through concrete. Like, you know, you can concrete grass over, but like, you know, that one blade that's like trying to get through the crack and just reach the sun, that's you know, just someone that didn't want to turn her back on her passions and her interest and her skill. It's such an inspiring journey that you've had, because, you know, your journey isn't all sparkly and perfect. Like, I went to university, I did really well, I then got a job, and it's, you know, it's a story full of zigzags. You know, the fact that you took an additional year to finish your degree shows so much strength and so much courage, because, you know, you could have dropped out. You know, there are so many women who, you know, I consider myself a sort of engineering dropout to some degree, because even though I absolutely love what I do today, you know, I couldn't hack not being part of a group and not being included. Like, I just didn't have that sort of strength of character to say, I know I'm really underrepresented here, but I'm going to still fight for what I enjoy. And you are fighting for what you enjoy. And that's so inspiring. You know, I see that as, you know, more resilient than I have ever been. So it's like, don't talk to me about that speech, because you've like transcended all of the setbacks. And, you know, I listen to you and I just think, here's a woman that didn't want to ever abandon her dreams. And, you know, everything that makes up you, you know, the fact that you were Nigerian, the fact that you were born and raised in the UK, but then you went back and you had that experience, and now you're turning all of these different experiences and kind of scary times, but also times of like joy, and you're turning it into something, you know, and that is your foundation that you've started. And it's just, oh my God, what an incredible journey you're on. There's so much hope in what you've just talked about. I find it incredible. I don't even know what to say next.
Thank you so much. Honestly, I owe quite a lot of it to you, because that day I didn't even want to go to the awards. I was just feeling like, I'm going to see other women in engineering flourishing, and there's me who hates, like, at this point I hated my course because I just felt so left out. I was like, I'm going to see all these people doing so well. I'd applied for so many internships, and I feel like they'd be like, yeah, okay, on the phone, they talk to me, and I'd get there and it's almost like they'd see I'm a Black woman, and I'd just feel like, yeah, we don't want to hire you. And it was so obvious. It's people are shameless. People didn't even try and make it seem like it wasn't a woman. Because some people are like, are you sure it's not your grades and it's not this? I'm like, well, the job I was applying for, I got the highest in my class for that module. So you'd think that, you know, for machine vision, I was literally the highest that year. So you think that going to apply for computer vision internships and telling them that and showing them what I've done, they'd be like, wow, yeah, come. Especially from UE, which is my uni, which is one of the best for robotics. So just so many factors didn't make sense. And going to that awards, one of my friends like dragged me along. She was like, do you know what? I think it's going to be inspirational. I think you're going to see other women and you're going to feel better by yourself. She wasn't even an engineer, but she signed up and she got her ticket. And I went there and I just remember feeling like, wow, I literally joined the IET the next day, but I was like, wow, this is amazing. And then seeing you, I was like, this could be me. This is somebody else that actually cares about helping other people. It's not just like, I want to be an engineer and that's it. Like, she talks about women and women from your country and just so many things. It was a very pivotal moment, honestly. And
also the women involved in that event, like, you know, just the incredible young female engineers that were there that night being celebrated was just like eye-opening, because I really felt that night that we had reached a turning point whereby engineering was actually seen to be glamorous and cool and young and hip and trendy, just, you know, that sort of Tatler picture where they did that magazine shoot. I was like, actually, engineering doesn't have to be grease under the fingernails, you know, and overalls. It can be fabulous. So it was a turning point night for me as well. So going forward then, like, because I just get the impression that you're such a strong, courageous, resilient woman. Do you need to tell yourself, like, to give yourself advice, just, you know, in the things that you do today? And if so, what is that advice to propel you through?
I'm a big believer in, speaking what you want into existence and manifesting things and positive affirmations. So it's like a do or die thing for me. I have to wake up and tell myself, like, you're beautiful, you're intelligent, you're wanted, you're appreciated. I feel like that has just become a kind of routine in my daily life, which helps me to be empowered, because all the things I'm saying are things that I know in my heart are true. Like, I'm a good friend, I'm a good this. Just telling myself that and then speaking it out, it's helped me. I think I've always been resilient, but when I had my little moment in university where I was like, my mental health was in the gutter and I was just like, what do I do next? That for me, and really finding strength in myself and being like, no, do you know what? People say, why are you a woman in engineering or in robotics? That's my power. I am a woman in engineering. I am a Black woman. I'm a Nigerian woman in engineering and robotics. That is my power. The things that, it's funny, people always try and like bully you or pick on you because of stuff. And it's just, when you really think about it, it's because they're probably jealous. It's really that simple. Like, it's probably just, there's something about you that intimidates them. Like, you're busy worrying about people who are probably intimidated by you. And it's not even necessarily anything that you're doing extravagantly. Like, it could just literally be you going to class and showing up for robotics as a degree. And people are thinking, I could have never done that. So just because of that reason, they are willing to put you down. And I think telling myself that I'm not the issue, there's nothing wrong with me, the way I am is perfect, God made me this way, and I'm very happy with myself. Just reminding myself constantly that I was put on this earth to do something more. Honestly, it's kept me grounded, it's kept me resilient, it's kept me going. Again, when I went to Nigeria and all the times I've worked with children and seen their faces, seeing the excitement, seeing, wow, that thing just went up in the sky, like, oh my God, or this just moved on the ground, just seeing all of that. What else can I say? Like, that is what I live for. That is honestly what I live for. And if somebody wants to put me down because of it, they can continue. Like, it's really, it's not going to bother me. I know my worth and I know why I was put on this earth. So yeah, it just all keeps me going, continuously going.
Oh my God, amen to that. Like, honestly, I'm like, fist bump. Yeah, because honestly, it took me years to get to that point where I was like, you know, I was so, I shrunk so much because I was like, oh, there's no one like me. I'm the only woman in fluid dynamics. Like, that so much of my my USPs actually made me shrink. And it took me years to get to the point where you are, where I was like, hang on, all these things that make me really different and special and unique are actually really beautiful, powerful things. Was a turning point. And I must say that I still struggle with that today. Like, I'm often very unconventional in situations. And you're right, people around me do tend to be threatened by my difference. And in feeling threatened, they're like, yeah, there's no one like you. I don't know why you think that you could get that job or do that thing. You know, no one's ever done it before. So why do you think you would do it? You know, and it's just, if you're able to embrace this concept that you've just described of, like, the reason why I'm so different is exactly what makes me powerful, then you're made. Like, I just think that is like such an important realization to have. And it's amazing to hear you vocalize it, because I know that you've got to that point by really going through the experiences you've been through. And I'm like so excited for your future, because I really feel like you're paving the way to something almighty, in what you can do, not just from an engineering point of view, but just in terms of like the lives you can touch through engineering and through education. It's just been incredible talking to you, and I wish you all the best with what you're doing. You're totally badass. You are the reason why I do what I do, because to see someone flourish and prosper the way you're doing, it just brings me so much joy. So thank you so much for sharing your kind of wisdom and your courage with us today.
Thank you so much for having me. Honestly, this is an honor, and I just feel like life has come full circle. It's so crazy to me, like, especially seeing you now. And honestly, if you go on my Instagram, like, scroll all the way to the bottom, you're there giving that speech. That's how like important it was to me. And it's, if anything, what it's taught me is that you don't know who is looking at you. You don't know who might be feeling like, for example, imagine you just said, nah, I don't want to give this speech, and you just stayed home. Like, what? Anything could have happened with me. I could have graduated, or maybe I wouldn't have. And you don't really realize. And that's what I've realized, like when I speak to girls and stuff, you don't really get it at the time, like just how many people you're touching. But yeah, it's really amazing. And that's what I want to continue to do. I don't know who might be looking at me. I don't know who might need to see somebody like me working in industry or working in, doing my charity stuff. I don't know who might need to see that, but hopefully somebody somewhere that feels like I'm about to drop off my degree, I can't do this anymore. Hopefully they find me somewhere, hopefully like social media, and they're like, oh, okay, she did it. She's okay. She's fine. Nothing's wrong with her. She's worked. I can do it. So yeah, no, this is really amazing for me. This is really humbling, and thank you for having me on the show.
Do you know what, Eneni? I'm just thinking, be the example you want to set, and you are such an amazing example. So yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening, and please do subscribe to this podcast, and maybe even rate and review it if you can. The more ratings and reviews, then the more interest from those algorithms, which could help to increase the reach of this show. And you can watch the video recording of this conversation on YouTube on my new series called Esteemed. It's all about self-discovery and self-evolution on innovation. So as always, be kind and loving to yourselves and others, and I wish you all a great week. Thanks for listening this week, and please do subscribe to this podcast if you want to, and maybe even rate and review it if you can. The more ratings and reviews, then the more interest from those trusty algorithms, which could help to increase the reach of this show. And you can watch the video recording of this conversation on my YouTube channel for my new series called Esteemed. It's all about self-discovery and self-evolution on innovation, diversity, and inclusivity. So as always, be kind and loving to yourselves, and I wish you all a great week.